Hey everybody, Eric, Pride of the Pack Dog Training. Welcome to episode 2 of Nuggets of Knowledge, our dog training question and answer show. We ask you guys to submit your questions about dog training via Facebook and Instagram, and this is the show. Every single Tuesday we answer all of your questions. So let's go ahead and get rolling with episode 2. First question of the day is, how to train on a time-constricted schedule. Is 15 minutes a day enough? Honestly, 15 minutes a day is more than enough. Usually on average with my personal dogs and any dogs that I have in a board and train, the amount of time that we spend over 2 sessions is anywhere between 10 and 12, at most 15 minutes. We do not spend that much time on training sessions. We try to keep them short, sweet, and fun in order to keep the dog engaged and entertained. That is the most important part, especially when you're first starting. You don't want to overwhelm the dog with too much stuff, too many things going on. You want to just maintain their engagement, maintain their interest and motivation. So yes, 1000%, 15 minutes a day is enough. If you're spending more than 15 minutes a day, you can go ahead and cut it down, honestly. The most important part of that is, as far as training sessions, 15 minutes a day is enough. But the caveat is you have to take all of those things that you learn in those short training sessions and carry them over through your daily life. Training is a lifestyle, so you have to start implementing all of those behaviors that you teach. If you're working on place, if you're working on downs, if you're working on sits, any type of behaviors that you're working on, once you get them done in the training sessions, you want to carry them over to regular life. Start asking for downs in regular life. Start asking your dog to place around the house. Things like that. As you start to ask for stuff outside of the training, all the training will start to kind of come together, and your dog will start to understand that all of those things are new rules that are being applied to them in regular daily life. So definitely 15 minutes is enough, but you do need to start to implement all of those new things that you're teaching in training throughout the day. Question 2 is, can I teach my dog to hold it all night? She wakes me up in the middle of the night to go. I don't know how old your dog is, so if she's a puppy, sometimes you just have to give it time. With puppies, I'm personally dealing with it. I have a 3-month-old puppy. He turns 3 months tomorrow, and we're dealing with potty training stuff. It doesn't exclude me. I'm not better at potty training because I'm a dog trainer. If anything, if that was the case, I'm actually doing worse because he is giving me a run for my money with how difficult he's being. So potty training is a difficult thing. If your dog is young, if she's still a puppy, he is still a puppy, which I didn't read the gender, just give it time. If your dog wakes you up in the middle of the night, for a little while you might have to get up and just allow your dog to go pee and then go back to sleep. Right now I'm getting up anywhere between 3 and 4 times a night in order to let my dog, new puppy, go pee. So it's not the best thing, but you signed up to get a puppy, and that is what it is. If they're older, they should be able to hold it more than likely throughout the night. If you're having issues, I'm not really the best potty training person as far as getting them to hold it specifically. I would just, if they're older and just crying in the middle of the night and it's for attention, then I guess that could be an issue. But if they need to go, they need to go. That's really just what it comes down to. If your dog has, I don't know what kind of breed you have. I don't know any details. So it could just be that your dog just needs to go if they're older. So it is what it is sometimes, and your dog might just need to go. And at least they're letting you know instead of having to wake up in the middle of the night and clean soiled crate. That's always much less fun. Yeah, that's if they're a puppy, just wait it out, keep patience, and they should get to the point where they'll be able to get through the night. If they're older, it just might be what it is. They might just have a small bladder, or might just, as long as it's not like a persistent thing where they're getting up every hour on the hour or something crazy, that could be a sign of a UTI or something like that. But if they're just getting up once a night and they just have to pee, and they definitely have to pee, and then they go right back in the crate and go to sleep, that just might be the way that your dog is if they're not a puppy. Yeah. So question 3, how can I get my dog to stop pulling on her leash? So pulling on the leash. As far as if I were to get a board and train who who pulled on the leash, what I would do, or if my personal dog were to pull on the leash, what I would do is I would introduce them to a prong collar. The prong collar is the safest and most effective tool to teach a dog to walk next to you safely, quickly, and it provides the most information to the dog and allows clear communication for the dog to understand exactly what you want them to do. You will always be able to be softer on a prong collar than any other tool, in my opinion. If you're using a slip collar, if you're using a martingale collar, if you're using a choke chain, if you're using a standard flat buckle, you will have to actually implement more force in order to communicate the exact same thing that you want from your dog. So what I would do is I would introduce your dog to a prong collar. If you don't know how to introduce the prong collar, I would definitely either contact a trainer or at least look it up on YouTube so you have an idea what you're doing before you just slap it on your dog and think that you know what you're doing and go for a walk. It just takes a little bit of time. You do have to teach your dog how to not only interpret but respond to leash pressure. So definitely take your time. Definitely be patient with the prong collar, but watching a YouTube video on how to introduce it and then going out and getting it and putting it on your dog, you could very literally have your dog walking on a soft leash within probably 20-30 minutes. It shouldn't be that big of a process. It's some dogs are a little bit more difficult than others. Some dogs are easier than others, but for the most part, the prong collar is the most effective, safest, and easiest tool to teach a dog how to walk softly on a leash, and that's personally what I would recommend. How can I get my dog to stop chasing my smaller dog? So this is a freedom issue. You cannot allow your dog to have freedom in the house if they're not able to be trusted. If your dog is chasing your smaller dog, that is an issue that you cannot trust them with. So in those situations, you either want to crate your dog, or in training, you want to teach your dog how to hold a place command. Your dog does not know that they're not supposed to chase the dog. So you can do many different things. You can, first of all, teach your dog what you do want them to do. So have them understand how to hold place or have them in the crate. Secondly, you want to make sure that you have a leash on your dog inside the house if they're not at a point where they can be trusted. Once they get to the point where you can trust them, you can remove the leash, but until they get to that point, they have to wear a leash inside in order for you to keep them accountable. Once you get to the point where you're teaching the dog, you can teach place, you can teach being in the crate politely. You don't want them going nuts. If they are chasing the dog, you want to make sure you correct it so they understand that that's the wrong behavior, but correcting it and teaching the right behavior go hand in hand. Always give your dog the benefit of the doubt and keep him or her away from the smaller dog for a while you're training. And then once you teach them place, once you teach them impulse control is essentially you teaching your dog to not give in to everything that they want to do because they understand that there's consequences if they make the wrong decision. So definitely teach your dog impulse control, teach your dog how to hold place, teach your dog what you do want them to do before you jump to corrections. Keep them away, keep them separate. And then once you have your dog to a place where you have them trained to understand place, understand impulse control, you can bring the smaller dog back into the picture and see if the training worked. But in that situation, you always have to advocate for both dogs. If the smaller dog is antagonizing the bigger dog, then you have to step in and sort of have a talk with both of them essentially and get your household in order. You may have to train both dogs, and more than likely, I mean, not only should you, but you should want to. You should want two dogs that are trained. So my best advice in a small sense is teach your dog place command, teach them impulse control, keep them separate until you can trust them, keep a leash on them. Until then, just keep training, and eventually you'll be able to have control. But always understand that you have control. Some people think that, oh, my dog chases a smaller dog, that's just how they are, and that's not how they are. They just don't know that they're not supposed to do that. And that's your job to convey that and also teach them the right thing to do. Next question is, can you train a male puppy to stop humping other dogs? Yes, 1000%. Number one, if you catch your dog humping another dog, you need to implement a punisher immediately. You need to throw a roll of paper towels, a rolled up towel, your shoe. If you have a stockyard whip, you can use that. Anything you can do to break that cycle of the dog and literally scare them out of doing it. Number one is going to be step one if they're already in action doing it. Secondly, in order to stop it and prevent it overall, you want to teach your dog how to socialize with other dogs. You cannot just throw your dog into a ring with a bunch of dogs or into a dog park and expect your dog to know what to do. Most dogs don't. They don't know how to make the right decision. And 9 times out of 10, they meet a dog that takes it personally, and then you have a dog fight on your hands. So in order to drop my phone, sorry. In order to keep your dog out of that situation, you want to teach them how to socialize. So how do you do that? Teach your dog how to respond to you. You need to be more relevant to the dog than absolutely any other thing, any other distraction in the world. And that requires training, that requires initiative and motivation and persistence on your part. You have to teach your dog that you are essentially the end-all be-all of their life. You need to make sure that if they're in a play situation, in a dog park situation, if you're a person that goes to a dog park, that if you call them, they have to come. And if you are able to call your dog off of another dog, you can sort of start to catch the humping even before it even happens. And your dog will know that it's not okay. So they've been corrected, and now they've been taught how to socialize. So always allow your dog to understand how to socialize first before you just decide to allow them to do it. You have to teach them again. With everything that I pretty much say, it's always going to come down to the fact that you have to teach your dog what to do. It never is a case where the dog knows inherently how to socialize or how to not attack another dog or whatever it is. Sometimes dogs just think that that is what they're supposed to do because they've never been corrected or never been shown the right way. So you have to show your dog exactly how to socialize. Teach them how to softly approach another dog. Teach them how to sniff them first and be polite and have polite interactions with other dogs. And then once you get them to the point where they're having polite interactions, and if things get a little bit crazy, you have the ability to verbally call them off, or if you have a leash on them, you can call them off with the leash. Then you can allow your dog to socialize. But don't just assume that because you put them in a dog park, your dog's not going to know what to do. You do have to teach them exactly what to do. Tips for pups that pull when they walk. With puppies, it's a little bit interesting because if they're too young to be wearing a prong collar, I would say probably 5 months. If the dog is really, really pushy, you can put a prong collar on. Otherwise, like I would say around 6 months would be a good time to introduce the prong collar, especially if they're smaller. You can introduce it, but if they're younger than that, the best thing that I would say to do is, again, going back to the previous question, you have to teach your dog that you're the most relevant thing or person in their life. If you're out on a walk and your dog is a puppy who already has attention issues, they're not going to be paying attention to you, especially if you're living in a city like New York City where there's tons of distractions everywhere. You need to make sure that your dog knows that you're the most important thing and you're who they should listen to. So if they're a young puppy, carry treats with you. If they start to pull ahead of you, turn in a different direction and then encourage them to come back to you and then give them a treat. Always, when they're super puppies, like 8 weeks to 2 months to 5 months, anywhere in that area, you want to give your dog the most ability to understand that they should be following you. So keep treats on you, keep them next to you, keep them engaged on your walks, keep them separate from everything that's going on. Don't go for long walks if your dog can't handle it. Keep them short. Teach your dog exactly what you do want them to do, which is walk next to you or behind you, and just give them treats. Keep them entertained with the treats. Keep feeding. If they pull ahead, stop or turn in a different direction, and when they turn to give you the attention, reward that so they understand that that's what you want. You want them to keep and maintain attention on you, and that's how you're going to stop a puppy from pulling. And then once they hit the age of being able to be introduced to a prong collar, don't be afraid to do it. A prong collar will be probably the most beneficial tool that you'll ever implement on your dog in yours and their life. All right, let's go to the other questions we got. How to get your dog to listen to no or down. Mine knows that she's doing something I don't like, but when I say no, she looks at me like F off. Sometimes you have to create a powerful no. If your no isn't powerful to your dog, then it doesn't mean anything. It's totally irrelevant. It's just another sound that you make, and they have no idea or care in the world that you're making it. You do need to start to pair your no with either a leash correction, a physical correction, or a body spatial correction. If you say no and then walk quickly towards your dog is sort of going to start to understand, like, okay, I did something wrong. And it's going to become a little bit more powerful. Or if they're not responding to that, you can say no and give a leash pop, and then they'll understand, okay, I did something wrong. Or you can give a tap on the side, or use just a physical touch with your hand. I'm not telling you to hit your dog or anything like that, but just a simple tap on the side that just breaks the dog out of the state of mind that they're in, or break them out of the behavior that they're currently doing that you don't generally like. You need to pair all that stuff with your no. You can't just say no and assume your dog knows that that's the wrong thing to do, because dogs don't understand English. They're not just going to inherently come out of the womb understanding, hey, no means no, and yes means yes, or anything like that. You do have to teach them what no means, and then as you start to pair your body, pair the leash, pair your spatial pressure with that no, your dog is going to start to understand, hey, that word is powerful and it means I'm doing something that they do not want me to do. So you'll start to have a little bit more power and effect with your no that way. Always pair your no with something else so the dog has clear understanding of what that word means. How to get a fearful dog to warm up to people instead of shying away. So fearful dog, don't always assume that your dog wants or needs to warm up to people. Some dogs don't want to meet people. Some dogs don't want to interact with a bunch of humans. If your dog likes you, that's all you really need. If your dog likes you and your extended family, then that's all you really need. You shouldn't be putting your dog in a position where they're just meeting strangers because you want them to warm up to them. Or even your friends. Like, they don't have to like your friends. That's not how it is. But you can teach your dog that at least if people come over, they don't have to be in this frantic, anxious state. Teach them place. Teach them exactly what you want them to do. Teach them how to be calm. But don't always assume that your dog needs to meet people and needs to warm up to them, because some dogs just don't like people, don't want to meet people. And as long as they like you, just preserve that relationship and advocate for your dog. That's part of advocating for your dog, is if they don't want to meet people and don't like people, don't force them to do it. Hi, my question is a follow-up to the advice you gave me in Points of Pride 126, Facing Your Dog's Fears, where you suggested that I do stuff with the dog where foot traffic is at a distance. I'm assuming the distance from people is to keep the dog under threshold. But what if in order to get to a good location like that, my dog blows through the threshold just by walking there and then again coming back? Since we have to pass by many people in order to get there, does that matter? Yeah, totally it matters, because you don't want to have your dog go through a fear, anxious state in order to get to your training area. What I would suggest is dial it back. Don't think so much about, I need to get my dog to be good in public or be good in social situations or be good around people. Dial it back to, let's just get our relationship in check or in order. Start to work with your dog. Start to train your dog by yourself in your apartment, in your house, wherever you are. Start to have your dog experience success and start to build confidence in the house when it's just you and them. As you start to build confidence and success, your dog is going to trust you more, because you've increased the value not only in yourself but also in your relationship, because your dog starts to understand, like, hey, this person keeps putting me in positions to succeed. I'm going to trust that person in other places that we go. So once you start to increase and build that confidence and trust inside, that's when you can sort of take it outside and start to introduce a few little things here and there. And as your dog succeeds in any little thing, don't always assume, like, okay, I have to cross through this big crowd of people in order to get to the quiet place. just start inside, start quiet inside, and then once you get to the point where you can at least go outside, start to take it slow there. You can always, I mean, even just train at your front door, train in your hallway, train in your stairwell. Like, take it slow, take it step by step, and over time you'll have a dog who has confidence in general areas. They'll start to associate the confidence and success and the trust in you as their leader, and the anxiety will start to get lower and lower and lower because they'll start to associate all of the problems and things that they normally would deal with. They'll understand that you're taking care of it. So I would just say, if you have a dog that's incredibly fearful to where they're paralyzed anytime you walk outside, start slow, take it slow, stay inside, just make it about you and the dog, build that relationship, build that trust, and over time you'll be able to start to take small steps towards your goal of being able to have your dog be comfortable in public. And then once they're in public, you can just have them hang out. Don't do anything, you don't have to train, just have them experience it. And then every time you go out and have them experience it and nothing goes wrong, every time you go back is going to get a little bit easier. Sometimes dogs make the connection right away, sometimes it takes a little bit more time, but as you continue to go there, nothing bad happens. Bring treats with you. If they're just holding it down calmly, feed treats, feed food, whatever you want to feed. But just allow your dog to experience success, and at the same time you're building trust, you're building your relationship, and your dog will just start to come and put all the pieces together and understand, like, hey, things aren't as bad as they seem. So, I have one more question. My dog barks at people that come to our home, no bite, hide, just backs away, barks, growls nonstop. Number one, your dog needs to understand that barking at people is not an okay behavior. So you can always use a bonker, which is a rolled up towel. You can use any type of soft thing, like a roll of paper towels, and just throw it at your dog if they're barking, and get them to kind of understand, like, hey, that's not cool. And it'll kind of surprise them at first, and they'll understand that they did something wrong and be like, okay, what just happened? And it'll startle them, and that's okay, because you do want to break that cycle of that's going on in their head. They're an anxious mess, and they're just going crazy barking at somebody that for no reason, and that's annoying, and it's not a good thing to deal with. And then going back to a previous question, keep your dog on a leash. Make sure that you have the ability to correct if you need to. You obviously are in a situation, if they're barking at people who come over, that you can't trust your dog in a general situation in your house, so they should be on a leash. If your dog barks, correct with the leash. And teach them that that's not okay. Essentially, you have to do a two-pronged approach. You have to teach your dog that barking isn't okay, and then you have to teach them what to do. So teach your dog that if people come over, they have to hold place, or they have to be in their crate calmly. They have to just be polite. You have to have them coexist. Again, several questions ago, do not assume that your dog wants to meet these people who come over to your house. All you really should aim for is coexistence, and have your dog understand that if people come over, their job is to hold place, be quiet, and be calm. If your dog decides to, on your terms, come and meet people in a calm way, then that's totally fine. You can allow it. But if they're barking and growling at people for no reason in your house just because they're scared, you need to, number one, teach them that that's not okay behavior by correcting, and then teach them the correct behavior, which would be holding place calmly, or hanging out next to you calmly, holding a down calmly. Just teach them what to do, and show them what they're doing currently is not the right thing to do. So issue a correction, and then teach in training what the right thing to do. I believe that is all the questions for this week. So hopefully you guys enjoyed Nuggets of Knowledge episode 2. If you guys have any friends who have any dog training questions, or you're like, hey, my friend has this dog that is just ruining their life, and you think that they might be helped if they're able to ask questions. It doesn't have to be in public. You don't have to put it in the comments if you feel uncomfortable. If you want to DM me, I'm more than happy to answer the questions via DM on the show. I'm never going to call anybody out. Obviously, we're just here to help. Let me actually just double check that I don't have a DM'd question. I don't think I do. Um, yeah, I don't. So, just if you have, again, a friend who has an issue with a dog, or if you're personally dealing with a dog and you're not comfortable, feel free to DM us. Feel free to comment if you're comfortable, but don't ever worry and think that your problems are not able to be solved. Usually problems can be solved, and sometimes people just need to hear the right thing in order to get that to click for them. So overall, I just want to make sure everybody understands that most answers are going to equate to, you need to make sure your dog understands what they're doing that you don't like is wrong, and you need to teach them the right thing to do. That's going to be the overarching theme of any question that I get. It's super, super important. The order that you take it in sometimes is a little bit more important. You have to be a little bit careful, but always, always, always teach first and correct later if you need to. And that way you'll have a much better relationship with your dog. But again, hope you guys enjoyed the show. Make sure you let your friends know about the show if, again, they're having problems with their dog, whatever it might be. And stay tuned for episode 3 of Nuggets of Knowledge next week. Thank you guys for watching.